Well, good evening, laddies, lasses, and lassos, and welcome to Click Science, the place where we make science. Just click. We're gonna explain such fascinating concepts, such as how is the Earth flat, but all the other planets in the solar system are round. It's just f***ing amazing how nature does that. It's so cool, and we're gonna explain it today. I swear to God, I'm gonna lose my mind before this video is over. Oh, get down from there. Don't worry, science wasn't real after all. Good evening, laddies, lasses, and lassos, and welcome to a beautifully unhinged video. If there is something I like to do is to scroll the internet and go down these like wild rabbit holes. And oftentimes I find myself in like some Facebook rabbit hole or on Twitter or Reddit or what have you that just goes into these wild directions regarding science, very much this around the word science, and people come up with these wild theories, and I am very tempted in the future to just start a university that teaches fake science. Just troll the kids. You think they're teaching them something, but it's not. Yeah, so anyway, we're gonna go through all of this together, laugh a bit, explain a bit, hopefully some Click Academy in the middle somewhere if we're lucky, and so just strap in and strap on and let's get into it, baby. Haha.
Miss America forgot to shave his pits for the big day. Look at this, did you know this is actually a man? Because women don't have armpit hair?
Why have we left the discourse regarding human anatomy to people I don't think has ever even met another human being? What? Hi. Do you have any kids?
Yes, I have one daughter. How about you?
How many baby daddies do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
I have one daughter.
I understand that. Is she by the same father?
I don't understand.
Man, and they say romance is dead. It was never alive to begin with. Is this what people mean when they say that online dating is absolute trash nowadays? Like if you're a man on online dating apps, it's like 50% spam bot and 50% like OnlyFans ads. And if you're a woman, you get this. Man, it's just great for everyone, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, though, I think what they're talking about in this instance isn't actually their inability to math. I think it's about that wild theory where if a person has multiple partners throughout their life, which is kind of normal, there is like gene residue left in your body that never leaves, because apparently that's how human bodies work. This has been debunked countless times, by the way. It isn't true. But for some reason, people on dating apps, for whatever reason, still believe it. It's great! Okay, I realize this tangent is getting a little bit long, right? But I have this amazing theory about dating apps that I would like to share with you that I call the undateable cesspool, right? It's that people who are dateable, who are somewhat mature, for example, that go on dating apps, typically meet someone, and the people who are left on the dating apps indefinitely are people like this. So the density of the undateable cesspool on dating apps, it's just gonna increase over time, and that's what we're seeing now. It's amazing. Here is a beautiful post from Rest in Peace Globe, checkmark. At The Globe is Dead, good old X.com, formerly known as Twitter. Moon allegedly reflecting sunlight. NASA image of moon not reflecting sunlight. Okay, you wanna know the like mind-boggling thing about this image, right? Anything that you can literally see is reflecting either sunlight or some other form of light, right? That's sort of how it works. If it glows more, it's just reflecting more light. Okay. Welcome to Click Academy, where we will demonstrate why some things are bright. Here is a rock with googly eyes that you can think of similar to the moon, because the moon is made of googly eyes. And then if you put more light on it, like a light source like this, it's gonna be brighter. So the more light you have on it, the more light you reflect, the brighter it will appear. But you can always see it, meaning that there's always some level of light reflecting on top of it and bouncing into your little eyeballs. That's how you can see it in the first place. It's just a matter of how much light. So some stuff will appear to be brighter than other, depending on how much light is bouncing off of it. Thank you, Mr. Rock, for teaching people why the moon is flat.
There is a girl arguing with me saying she knows the girl who had 40 abortions in a year. And I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Women can only get pregnant once a month. It's apparent to me now that a good amount of people don't know this. You should know this.
40 abortions in a year. That's almost one abortion a week. Man, this is some hardcore cycles.
Oh my god, these other beta women have cycles once a month. I have it once a week. I'm not like other girls.
Did you know that Tartaria cities were connected via huge stargates that would allow for instant travel around the empire? The CIA currently control the last known stargate. And here's a picture from like ye olden time London or something with this giant AI-generated alleged stargate. How would you even get into this? Did you have anything that could fly back in those days? Man, leave it to Facebook to create entire like scientific conspiracies based on one single poorly AI-generated photo. This has 3,000 likes. Bruh.
Ma'am, Canada didn't even fight in World War II, so maybe sit this one out.
Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Canada joined the World War II war effort on September 10th, 1939. The US joined the war effort in December of 1941. I'm gonna be honest, I don't use Twitter that much anymore, but this is definitely one of my favorite features on it, and it's so hilarious the kind of stuff people will spew. Like, you can literally open a new tab on the same device you're writing this on. Just double check the thing you're tweeting before tweeting. Honestly, at this point, I am seriously wondering how many of these accounts are just bots designed to just rage bait to get more engagement on the platform. That seems to be like a solid 50% of the internet at this point. It's wild. Lighting on the left. Wait, did I pronounce lighting right? Yeah, we have to redo that. Lightning on the left is a perfect temperature for a train. Lightning on the right is perfect temperature for a dentist. Please get rid of it. You see, here's a warm little train and here's a cold little train.
I don't think you know what the word temperature means. You silly little gooner, don't you understand that light cannot have a temperature?
I mean, even on my little control app for my silly studio lights, I have like temperature sliders. Focus on temperature. There we go, look at that. And if I slide on those little temperature things, I'ma look cold, just like Sweden. Oh yeah, look at that. You're getting paler by... Ooh, there we go. Artificial tanning, baby. This kind of stuff reminds me of when people are arguing about carats when it comes to gold and diamonds, not realizing that carats for gold is purity, and carats for diamonds is like the size of the diamond, right? It's like, one word can mean different things in different contexts.
You can buy Roundup in all 50 states, but the sale on raw milk is illegal in 39 of them. Make it make sense. Cue the comments about listeria, the bird flu, etc. But yet I bet you're still eating eggs and deli meat, right?
I don't know about you, man, but I usually cook my eggs. I don't drink them raw. And also, on top of that, it's probably banned because everyone started feeding their kids raw milk and they got sick and shit. It's not a good thing, man.
Ever seen a Hispanic dress as a cowboy? It's like seeing a Jew dress as a Nazi.
What does Hispanic have to do with this? You obviously have zero clue about Hispanic heritage history and where cowboys came from. They were the first cowboy men. This is hilarious. I love this. You're just picking things at random. This is great.
As a black woman, you have the Eve gene, which makes you able to procreate. Black women create all. White women can't procreate. No, they cannot. Do your research.
Why is it always the people that say do your research that have like the most unhinged opinions online? What is this? The rest of us amateur create, I as procreate. My children were born professionally. So I was Googling a bit and trying to make sense of this, and the thing I found about it is called the myth of Eve, molecular biology and human origins. It has been proposed that modern humans descended from a single woman, the mitochondrial Eve, who lived in Africa 100,000 to 200,000 years ago. The human immune system, DRB1 genes, are extremely polymorphic, with gene lineages that coalesce into an ancestor who lived around 60 million years ago, a time before the divergence of the apes from the old world monkeys. The theory of gene coalescence suggests that, throughout the last 60 million years, human ancestral populations had an effective size of 100,000 individuals or greater. Molecular evolution Molecular evolution data favors the African origin of modern humans, but the weight of the evidence is against the population bottleneck before their emergence. The mitochondrial Eve hypothesis emanates from a confusion between genealogies and individual genealogies. This is the only thing I could find that even like resembles what they're yapping about, but it's like entire countries of people are infertile. Is that a conclusion? I don't get it. I don't get it. Leave it to the online world to have the most like wild takes ever. I couldn't make this up if I tried.
When you realize you can swap all of this for this, ivermectin, lots of people get pissed.
Is this still a thing? Man, wasn't this a thing in like peak COVID vibes? Oh my god, is this still going on? I mean, feel free to, if you want to try it, I guess. I'm gonna pass though, thanks. That is where you're not getting science. There are XY with ovaries and XX with male organs. There is XO, XXY, XXXY, 46XX and 46XY, and more. Science recognizes transgender even if it makes you uncomfortable. Anti-trans bigotry is anti-science and pro-hate.
I hate to say it, human female eggs do not carry chromosomes. That's the human male splosies.
Haha, yes, you get all your DNA from a single parent, as sexual reproduction intended. Ah, yes, indeed, that relatable moment when you want to settle down, but you haven't quite find the right partner yet, so you just cell divide into a baby, and there you go, happy family, booyah. Duck feathers and their hydrophobic properties. That is so freaking cool. Do you think we could build a submarine out of duck feathers? Oh my god, prehistoric submarines, baby.
Phobic is the wrong word. They are repellent of water. The water is not afraid of the feathers.
Isn't it the other way around? Shouldn't feathers be afraid of water? Or is the water feather-phobic? Is that...
You didn't even get it in the right direction. Society has screwed up the definition of phobic and phobia. And it all started with the word homophobic. Ah, yes, indeed. And now we are debating it on Twitter.com, where we solve all the world's problems.
Maybe this would be like a good ASMR episode. Frustratingly whisper pseudoscience into your ear at 3 a.m. ASMR.
Raw is law because bacteria does not exist. At Gnork ice emoji, look at this raw steak and this raw cheese.
Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Bacteria make cheese, converting milk through fermentation. Here's a link explaining how cheese is made.
It gets a little bit ironic, doesn't it? When you're claiming that you have to eat cheese raw because bacteria aren't real, but then the whole thing is created by
Oh my god, these people, man, these people, oh my god. Leaving aside the extremely well-established disease vector thing, raw meat just isn't very good. Like, we seared steaks for literally tens of thousands of years before we had microscopes, because they're tastier that way. The part where it doesn't try to kill you is almost an accident. Why would you do this to yourself? Are you afraid of a little fire? And also, cooked food is also easier to digest, so it becomes way more calorie efficient.
It is mad that this is what you think the problem is. It's not about how attractive the characters are. It's about the fucked rainbow ideology that they are trying to push, using games and movies as political tools to influence people. I don't want to play as a bald transgender lesbian.
What's the ideology they're pushing? That gay people are the heroes sometimes too?
Never in the history of the earth has an F-slab been a hero.
Makes sense. You wouldn't think of the gay man that broke the Nazi codes and brought us modern computer technologies would be a hero. You probably like Nazis. Or about the gay man that stopped the presidential assassination on Gerald Ford. You probably don't consider the gay man who helped organize MLK's events was a hero because you probably don't believe in equal rights. I am sure the woman who brought us advancements in medicine and statistics, Florence Nightingale, also isn't a hero to you. You still also didn't answer what ideology they're pushing. You seem to know so much about it, so tell me the ideology they are pushing. Ah, isn't it beautiful how absolutely unhinged these conversations always become online? I think you can definitely talk about stuff like rainbow capitalism, or when companies virtue signal to certain groups of people just to take more money from you, basically. That is perfectly valid to talk about, and I don't think it's something that most people really enjoy to begin with. But then you have people like this that just go completely, absolutely unhinged, and it's so obvious it's not about like an actual media discussion or anything. They're just absolutely insane and hateful. It's bonkers, man. Come on. Why the frick is everyone telling me numbers are Arab? I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Arab people write it like this. Just looked it up. So please educate yourself before trying to lecture me. I swear, you single-handedly bring down the average IQ of our entire country. Here is a Wikipedia link. Please educate yourself a little further. The numbers that Europeans and Americans use are called Hindu-Arabic numeral system. That numerical system has different branches. What has me so concerned is that 162 people liked this initial comment. And it's pinned by the author. No. One really interesting thing with human history is to look at how information has evolved throughout the centuries. In the beginning, the problem was that there wasn't enough information out there, or simply that people didn't know how to take information on board. For example, literacy was pretty low. How do you spread information if no one can read or write, and you don't have the internet, and you don't have TVs or whatever? And then as society evolved, we eventually reached the point today where information in of itself is so incredibly abundant, but the problem becomes filtering out out the good information from the bad information. And this is certainly one example of it. You have so much noise and so much algorithms and everything just feeding you constantly. And how do you even make sense of it? And sometimes it even creates fallacies in how you interpret information, even if the information itself isn't actually false. So welcome to Click Academy. There we go, doctor's handwriting, that means I'm smart. So one common fallacy, for example, when it comes to media consumption, even though the thing you're consuming in of itself isn't actually false, is your sense of how bad the world is. That is not to say bad things don't happen, they certainly do, but a lot of things in the world, minus, for example, the environmental crisis, are gradually getting better as the year progresses. But if you look at a graph, for example, take a subject on this axis that is something like child mortality rates, for example. Typically, they have gone down over time. But then, for example, there's occasionally like, oh, there's a bad news, there's a disease that hits or COVID or what have you, and then it keeps going down. But during the news cycle in this area where we find ourselves at a current state in time, if this graph is T, for example, is that it will feel really negative because, oh my god, child mortality rates are shooting through the roof, everything sucks. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. These are real people suffering, and that is important not to forget. But it's also important not to get yourself paralyzed by negativity, because if you zoom out, you'll see that, oh my god, it's actually getting better over time. I think it's an important thing to realize when you're consuming news, and especially nowadays where you even have social media where a lot of the things travel because they are inherently rage-baity, negative, or very crisis-oriented. It is psychologically proven that humans are more likely to click on or engage with things that are negative or shocking. I think a good way to think about stuff like this is realistic optimism. It's like, bad stuff is happening, it is still happening, the world is a horrible place, but it's a little less horrible than it was a few decades ago, right? And that has been the typical trend for a lot of things, and hopefully it keeps being the case. So it's important to see the world for what it is. Negative things happening. We are currently finding ourselves in a time where a lot of negative things are happening. It's a lot of uncertainty, but it's also good to look at the world throughout a wider scope. And there are a lot of fallacies when it comes to this kind of stuff. And this is only the fallacies when it comes to like news that are inherently correct in of themselves. This is more of a psychological fallacy in humans. And then you pair that with all the misinformation that is floating around, and yippee-hoo! No wonder frickin' social media looks the way it does. Holy fuck, man. Another thing to look out for in social media, and this is important also to look out for example, if you have younger siblings and the like, is how quickly you can get sucked into rabbit holes of extremism. And this is often because a lot of spokespeople for very extremist things online say things that are, true in the beginning. It's like stuff that is sprinkled with truth, but then it becomes this massive black and white worldview very quickly down the line, and it just becomes absolutely unhinged. When the grocery prices keep going up and your job is already on your last nerve, and you're thinking about an alternative to make ends meet, my god, it's Disney feed time. This is great. I love the economy.
I can't help it. It's meat. Meat, not meat.
Oh my god, this can be like a cute little OnlyFans offshoot, doesn't it? Hey guys, my YouTube channel has been really struggling. Subscribe to my OnlyFans where I make ends meet. Because you're paying for meat. Wow, that was a great pun. Anyway, let's keep reading this unhinged post.
You're not about to meet up with someone. Yeah, you meet up with someone. That's kind of a pun. That's something I would expect at r/grinder.
Hey there. Let's meet up.
It's like grade 4 spelling. How are we all regressing?
It's so ironic that the person who's talking about regressing is
the most regressed! Still, though, funny AF.
You're very wrong. The two ends are trying to meet up with each other. They're not turning into meat. How can you be so passionate and yet so wrong? Meat is correct in this case. Meat is edible. Okay, to be fair, to play a bit of devil's advocate on the behalf of this gentleman, maybe he's just hoping for some edible merchandise in reference to making ends meet with feet pictures. Oh, this next post looks great. Are any of them qualified in maths? 50 tabs? Ooh, 60 tabs. It's 50% more.
50% more than what? Just saying 50% more is meaningless. Do you know how many millions of dollars I have? 50% more! 50% more than 40, of course. Actually, you know when someone starts off with actually, it's not gonna be an actually. 50% more than 30. 60 divided by 2 equals 30, so it's 50%.
was I born a human and not something fun like a fucking squirrel?
Next time, don't make math jokes unless you're actually confident in your answer and have double-checked with a calculator. Edit. Damn, so many math whizzies trying to correct me who clearly don't know how to use a calculator. Lol. Makes me sad for the public education system.
I love this kind of person because they literally took all their stats out of intelligence and pumped it into confidence. It's amazing.
Are we really gonna do a Click Academy? Okay, wow, it's gonna be, oh wow, 2 + 2 is 4, am I right?
Alright, welcome to Click Academy. So are we just doing Click Academy about, like, stupider and stupider things? That's certainly what I feel like. Even Click Academy is regressing. This is sad. Okay, so if you have, for example, 50% of 60, that would be the same as doing 0.5 times 60, because it's half, right? Which would be 30. But if you want a 50% increase of something, for example, a 50% increase of 30, you would take 30 multiplied by 1.5, because this would be 150% of the original, which is then a 50% increase, which is 45, okay? So you can't, like, use the same percentage in both ways, right? To get back to the original number that was cut in half, you need to obviously double it, right? So 30 times 2, which is then 200%, would be 60. So it's all about, like, what the original number is. You know, that's sort of the trick about percentages. Thank you for coming to my Click TED Talk. Do you think that medieval farmers produced more food than our modern farmers do today?
No. Modern farmers produce a lot more food, far less efficiently than medieval farmers.
Wait, what do you mean far less? I would imagine it's more efficient, right?
You probably want to check a dictionary. Efficient doesn't mean more.
Why are you arguing pedantics of words when it's obvious it's both? Just look at the population growth and the size of an average farm. So yeah, obviously there's more food being produced. We also have better means of both protecting our crops, fertilizing the crops, and harvesting it and storaging. Obviously it's both. You're producing more and doing it more efficiently. What is...
Oh my god, people that make this pointless argument, I swear to God.
Many years ago, I saw numbers on this. The yield, i.e. how much you get back compared to what you planted, was 2 to 1. In other words, for each grain you planted, you got 2 back. Oh, in some games where you have farming, you can actually level up a perk that gives you more seeds back. Today, with modern crops, modern tools allowing more fertile soil to be used, modern methods, and modern chemicals, that number is 8 to 1. So in medieval times, you got +1 grain for every grain planted. Today, we get +7. We also do that with much less manpower, so vastly more efficient. Edit, and given that food shortage is a much more pressing problem than lack of energy, food output is what matters.
Sad truth. Imagine how much propaganda it took to convince women that this is oppressive. Look, she's getting a smoochies while cooking, while holding baby, and there's a child off to the side. Sad truth of today's women.
Okay, but what happens if the marriage turned absolute poo? She's been spending her time as a housewife instead of a career, and then she can't find a job where she can support herself and the kids, for example, when the husband decides to dip. What happens then? Ooh, this one flew away. Yippee! I think whenever you post a picture like this to, like, make any sort of argument, it gets really silly really fast. Like, imagine if I just posted a picture of, like, a lion pupper in a zoo getting a belly rub and be like, oh my god, it's so cute, it's getting a belly rub. How could lions ever hurt people? It's like, it's that kind of thing. Like, sure, I imagine, like, a tamed lion can be pretty snuggly and cozy. It can also be an absolute murder machine. Just as if you want to stay at home and take care of kids in the household is perfectly fine. But if you, like, endorse a worldview where you don't make decisions for yourself and you're dependent on someone, it's also going to lead to more bad relationships where you literally cannot leave. Like, women weren't allowed to own bank accounts not too long ago, and that certainly doesn't create, like, a better dynamic in the relationship, I don't believe, at least. And also another thing, which is really important to talk about when it comes to these sort of topics, tradwifing online is very glorified, and it doesn't really have anything to do with what actual tradwifing looks like. If you ever watch any tradwife influencers, for example, on TikTok, you will very quickly realize that all the tasks they are doing are kind of these, like, hobby-esque tasks. And what it comes down to is that that's how you show a potential partner, for example, or really rich people, that you are so well off that you can just do f*** all day and just go around and look pretty in an apron. That's it. Like, nothing they do is actual things. They're not cleaning up their kids' barf, they're not cleaning toilets, they're not taking their kids to school, waking up at 3 a.m. because your child is sick. You don't see any of that stuff. You just see like,
Oh yeah, today I wanted to make some homemade granola for my kids, so I spent an hour in a fancy-ass kitchen piecing together some granola. It's like that's not what it means.
this is not the average housewife experience, okay? What they're showing you is an elite lifestyle of the very wealthy, and part of showing off that wealth is showing that you don't have to actually do any work, but they're saying that it's like an average housewife lifestyle. And that's why you see so many people being like, oh my god, I wish I was a housewife. Like, no, you don't actually wish you were a housewife. You wish that you had $1 billion so you could just be in your house and fuck around all day. And I mean, to be honest, who wouldn't want that? And of course, with that said, it's perfectly fine to like have different roles in a relationship depending on how much both of you want to work and what the economic situation is and so on and so forth. There's a lot of variety in how relationships actually work in practice because of a bunch of different factors, and it's perfectly fine if both people are in on it and everything is working fine and you want to spend time with kids or whatever it is. Like, that is perfectly fine. But the image you see online isn't what it actually means. r/ask Reddit. If you were revamping the human body and giving bobs an actual useful function instead of just naughty appeal, what would you have them do? I mean, maybe feed babies or something like that, but that's maybe a bit of a wild concept. It's 9 a.m. here, and I'm starting the day knowing that I can hardly hear something dumber than this today. I mean, I think every day feels good if you just set the bar real low the first thing you do.
Indian women have standards. How she looks versus how she thinks she looks.
They both just look kinda cute though. No? I guess this has something to do with some racism thing. It's like, oh my god, one skin is brighter than the other. Is that the takeaway? Is that the takeaway I should have from this? Man, what a dumb meme.
Women shouldn't be allowed an opinion on sporting matters.
You're an idiot.
You're. The duality is amazing, right?
You're the most amazing woman I ever met. I'm here for you. Text me when you need anything.
Aw, so sweet of you.
She's the one.
Fucking simp, lol.
Oh man, I can never get enough about gender war memes when someone has made like a salty meme that is obviously about an ex. I mean, in this case, it wouldn't even be an ex. It would someone that wasn't reciprocating. But I digress. It's someone that made a meme about one specific person they were like ranting it to themselves about in the shower, and they made a meme about it pretending it's like the entire 50% of the population. Just break up. They're a poor person. Don't make it our problem.
Once a lady deeply respects you, the weirdest thing happens. She adopts your interest, political views, parenting style, worldview, and she will even start enjoying your music. It's wild. Suddenly there's nothing to bicker about. They're incredibly malleable, but you must earn it.
This just reads like someone who is intentionally encouraging their followers to date people like 20 years younger than themselves, I'm gonna be honest. And also, like, adopting some of your partner's interests and like doing it together is perfectly normal thing to do. Or find new things that you both enjoy doing together. But then it always has to turn into some like unhinged cult online. Dear God, man, how can you turn something so normal and wholesome into like, oh yeah, the malleable women, they have to live in your basement until they share your political views.
These flight routes do not exist. You see, there are no flights from Cape Town to Sydney, and they don't go over the South Pole. Okay, is this a flat earth argument? To be fair, no commercial flight actually go directly over Antarctica because of the bad weather, and there is nowhere to make an emergency landing on the way. Also, there is a lot less demand. In the Arctic, there is demand for regular London to Tokyo flights, for example. The Melbourne to Rio Gallegos route would have a lot less demand for some reason. Maybe it's that trade and tourism is different for Australia and Argentina. Maybe it's Illuminati-style secret, ooh, that's a word that will always ring weird in my ears, a society covering up the truth about flat Earth. Who can say? Also, one thing to point out is that flight maps like change over time when demand changes or when new airports are built, for example. I know certain travel routes that I have traveled with in the past that have been cancelled for a lack of demand, for example, and you have to make another stop for it. I don't think it's because the shape of the Earth changed. I think it's just because of demand and rebuilding airports. Mom, why isn't there a cure for cancer? Because, Jimmy, there is far more money to be made treating a disease for a lifetime rather than curing it in a day.
Oh, I swear to God, this meme is so close, man. It is so close. But no. Do people not realize that most diseases have no cure? Like, we can vaccinate against many, overcome many with antibiotics or other forms of modern medicine, but that doesn't mean there is necessarily a cure. And if you knew anything about cancer, you know that it would be especially unrealistic to find a cure. And there's also tons of different types of cancer. Cancer is really difficult and nasty. Also, there are a lot of examples where the medical industry is just very profit-driven and exploitative. For example, insulin in the US is one of those primary examples, right? So this meme feels like it's almost there. Like, it's so close being like, oh yeah, exploitative systems and yada yada, people depending on medication, so you make it a monopoly and then you jank up the price because you're poopy. It's like, it's so close, but not quite there. With the amount of follow the money conspiracy theories, it's interesting how many conspiracy theorists are still ardent supports of capitalism. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Oh, yes, indeed. When the human body is hungry, it eats itself. It does a cleansing process, removing all sick cells, cancer, aging cells, and Alzheimer's. It's called autophagy. It occurs when you fast for more than 24 hours. See, if you fast for 24 hours, your body is gonna devour your Alzheimer's, and you're also gonna age backwards, and also eat your cancer. Man, that sounds great. You know the old saying, where it's like, man, that sounds too good to be true? That can still be applied in like all of these cases. And I mean, yeah, your body would eat itself, but not like in a very productive way, perhaps. First, it would devour the fat, because that's where all the excess energy is stored. Then it would start munching your muscles, and so on and so forth, right? There's a reason why if you, for example, want to max out your lifting for stuff, if you go to the gym, that bulking is a thing. It's easier to put on muscle if you also put on a little bit of fat, so your body has enough energy and calories and everything to build as much muscle as possible. Like, bulking season is a thing for a reason. But it's not because, like, shredding season magically cures cancer. That's not it. It's just beach body things. Tell me this, dear atheist. How does a random explosion, the Big Bang, first stars, the solar system, etc., create a perfect calendar? The sun tells the time of day. The moon tells the day of the month. The stars tells you the month of the year.
That's like saying it's amazing how our hands evolved to perfectly fit our gloves.
Oh my god, that reminds me, there is this old video clip about some interview documentary or something where it's a bunch of dudes sitting around eating bananas, and they're talking about how amazing it is that God made bananas to perfectly fit our hands and you can like peel them and stuff. You know that original bananas, before we genetically bred them to be what we wanted them to be, were these like tiny little shitty things filled with seeds, right? Like, original wild bananas are ass. We made them that way. Does anybody want to tell me any awesome facts? No, don't ask Twitter for awesome facts, I swear to God.
Due to something called chemical memory, if you teach a leech how to solve a maze and then put it in a blender and feed that to another leech, the second leech will know how to solve the maze.
That is an awesome fact. Side note, can someone do a wellness check on the guy blending up leeches and feeding them to other leeches?
Maybe we can do this to kids too. You know, you have a class of kids in school and one kid is doing really well, like the little genius of the class. You just blend them up and turn them into knowledge smoothies for the rest of the class, for the greater good. You see, Timmy, it's for the greater good. Or, you know, maybe it's something as simple as the new leech can also learn a maze, because there are organisms way simpler than leeches that can learn how to operate a maze. Okay, maybe it doesn't actually have to do with any transfer stuff. Type 3 diabetes. Alzheimer's and menopause were not common until the 20th century.
Type 3 what?
It's a non-recognized term for Alzheimer's, so this person is not only spouting nonsense, but they're also being redundant.
To be fair, before the 20th century, a lot of people didn't live long enough to hit menopause or have Alzheimer's.
Glober. This guy doesn't believe the Earth has a core. Me! Funny how trees emit electricity all by themselves, and the fact that you believe that an electromagnetic core can't grasp its force on a butterfly, and we can tell you didn't do this experiment in reality of how powerful that force would be if there were a core. It would be so powerful you wouldn't be able to move.
What the fuck?
Of course, the sun is 93 million miles. What makes you think it's so cool?
If was 93 million miles away from the Earth, the sun's power would reach the Earth simultaneously. Every single inch would be receiving the same amount of power from the sun. It's silly to think otherwise, really. So simple, it's just a pantomime.
But like Oh, I guess it's because they think the Earth is flat, right? So night and day doesn't exist because there isn't like a backside of the Earth. Well, this argument seems to like have a little bit of assumptions made before the fact, right? Man, that's great. Oh man, that's good. I felt like my brain melted there for a while. Let me know in the comments how much your brain melted in this video. I would love to know, because maybe this is some kind of therapeutic stuff. Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, you wonderful, beautiful being. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed having you here, and I hope to see you in the very near future. Take care. Mwah.